3, 4. Okay, don't worry if your yarn's going everywhere. So you're going to start off by doing a slip knot. So with your 3 strands held together, just wrap that around your hand, and then you're just going to loop that yarn through. Okay, and that slip knot is going to sit on your wrist because you're using your arms as your knitting needles. Okay, so I'm just going to tighten that up slightly, and we're going to do the long tail cast on. So you basically do the same as you would if you were casting onto your knitting needles. I've got, this is the loose end of the yarn. This is my long tail. So my thumb is going under there. My forefinger is going that way, and I'm making a kind of slingshot motion. And I'm just going to grasp the strands there. So it looks like I've got a catapult. Okay, and then to do the first stitch of cast on for long tail, so the easiest way I find is to go into the sort of inner elbow, go up and catch that strand that's under your thumb, and then go to my index finger and pick that up and pull it through. Okay, don't worry, I'm going to show that again. So just free up your yarn as you go because you're working with a lot of it. Okay, so again, this is the long tail, and I'm going to make a kind of catapult. So my thumb is going under this long tail, my index finger's going there, and I'm grasping them together, pulling them back just like a slingshot. And then again, I'm just sliding my hand up there under these strands, and then I'm going down and taking the strand that's running down from my index finger, pulling it through and onto my wrist. And you don't want to do these too tight because otherwise you're not going to be able to get them off your arm. So again, once more, again, this is the long tail, my thumb's going under there, my index finger there, and I'm just grabbing them together, pulling back like a slingshot, just going under that strand to the index finger and pulling that strand through. So you need to do this 28 times, sorry, for your blanket. So I'm just going to keep going. Again, that's the long tail. I'm pulling that back like a slingshot, going under there and pulling that strand of yarn through and just popping the loop on my wrist. And you'll need to shuffle them along your arm as you go. So you're going to have a lot of stitches. Again, free up a bit of yarn. So thumb under the long tail, index finger there, grasp them together, pull back like a slingshot, under that strand, and then picking up that strand that's on my index finger and onto my wrist. Okay, so I'm going to go a bit faster now. Here we go. Okay, I've got 27 stitches on my arm, so just one more, and then we are good to go. Okay, so you're then going to knit into all of these stitches, and like you would do with knitting, you're going to transfer all the stitches on this arm onto your free arm. Okay, so here goes. So to do this, I'm going to take the end that's attached to the balls, and I'm just going to lay it across the hand that's got all the stitches. Okay, simple as that, just throw it over. Okay, and then I'm going to lift. So remember, you've got each stitch that you've got on your arm is 3 strands of yarn. So I'm going to lift that just over and off my hand. And now I'm going to transfer this stitch over and onto my other arm. Okay, and then for the next stitch, so again, I throw that across my palm. That's the end that's attached to the balls of yarn. Just with your finger and thumb, just lift that stitch over and off, and then come in, so you're putting palm to palm, and slide that over and onto the free arm, okay? So it's a really nice rhythm once you get into it. It feels very weird at first. You want to throw it over the hand that's got all the stitches on it, and then just take your 3 strands, lift those over and off, bring your palm in, so palm to palm, and slide that onto the other arm. Okay, so cast your yarn across your palm, pick up the 3 strands, over and off, and then onto the other arm. Simple. Okay, so you're just going to carry on like this until the end of the row. So I'm going to show you a few more stitches. It's just the same motion. Off that first hand, onto the next. Grab the yarn, off the first hand, slide your palm in. It's just like knitting. You're just taking all the stitches, well, it is knitting, it's arm knitting. Taking all the stitches from this arm onto this arm. Okay, so you do tend to get trapped when you're arm knitting, so make sure if you've got anything on the stove or you need the loo, you've done that before you get started. But the beauty of this is that it comes together so quickly that it's only going to take you about an hour to get through all your yarn and make your big blanket. So it's really super fast. Okay, so I'm about to knit the last stitch. So again, just over the palm, off the hand. So this arm is now free, and I'm gonna knit all the stitches from this arm onto my free arm. So it's a bit of a workout, it's getting heavy now, but it's gonna come together so quickly, you're gonna be amazed. All right, so same process. Just take the strands that are attached to the balls of yarn, drop them over that hand, take the stitch over that and off your hand, and then come in again with your free hand, palm to palm, and transfer it over. So exactly the same as you were doing before. Pop the yarn over the palm of your hand, lift the stitch off, slip your hand in, and that's it. Okay, just over there, and slip your hand in. So it does get a little bit unwieldy, stick with it and you'll find your rhythm and you'll be speeding along in no time. So let's see this grow super fast. Okay, so I'm now at the end of my first 3 balls of yarn. So to join in another 3 balls, I'm just going to take the ends of these 3 new balls and I'm going to tie a knot around the old ball, around the old yarn. I'm just going to tie a knot. Maybe leave a slightly longer tail because you're going to have to weave that in at the end. Okay, and then you can just slide that knot along. So that's my, ooh. Make sure you're picking up the right strands. Okay, so this is my new yarn. My old yarn's just hanging out down here and we're going to weave that in at the end, as I said. Okay, and then you're ready to start going again. So I'm going to knit from this arm onto my free arm. All right, so you want to keep knitting until you've got about 9 meters of yarn left, because you're going to need all that yarn to cast off. So it's going to depend on the tension of your knitting, but I've done about 25, 26 rows. Okay, so make sure you've got enough yarn, about 9 meters to cast off. Okay, and then you're going to knit the stitches in pairs, exactly the same way that you would do if you were doing regular knitting on needles. So I'm just going to knit 2 stitches in the same way that we've been doing. Okay, and then once you've got 2 stitches on that arm, just jump that first stitch over and off, and that's it. So you're going to knit 1 more stitch. Now that you've got 2 on your arm, you're just going to jump that first stitch over and then off. You don't need to pull on this too tightly, just keep going and you'll find your own tension. Okay, so okay, so I've got just enough yarn left to cast off that last stitch. So this is why it's really important to make sure you've got a good 9 meters before you start casting off. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to take the yarn and pass it through that last stitch, and then just to create a nice finished edge, I'm going to weave the tail ends just along here. I'm not going to go too far because I haven't got a lot to work with. I'm just going to follow the path of the stitches, pulling them all through, all 3 together, just following the path of the yarn. In fact, I'm just going to do it to there, maybe a little bit further, and then I'm going to tie them all off one by one, just so that my blanket or my arm knitting doesn't unravel. Now we usually say when you knit, don't knot, but in this case, it's okay. Do an extra knot just to make sure that doesn't run away anywhere. You pull it nice and tight, and then I'm going to trim them all off once I've got them all woven in. I'm just going to tie this one around here. Just tie it 2 or 3 times, just until you feel it's nice and secure. And the Crazy Sexy wool does knot together really nicely. It shouldn't wriggle undone. Okay, last one. Just staggering them slightly, so they don't all sit together. Pop that through there. You don't need to be too precise with this. It's a big chunky arm knitted blanket, so just throw caution to the wind. I'm just going to trim them all off. I'm just going to trim them quite close to the knot. Now that I'm happy that they're all nice and tight. Last one. And there you go, a whole arm knitted blanket in just over an hour. Ta-da!